All right. So we just learned from that video that the volume of a cone is 1/3 the volume of a cylinder with equal proportions. There's the formula. I want to give you a different version of this formula that's a little more calculator friendly. I'll write it down here. So the volume of a cone is pi times radius squared times height. So that's the cylinder divided by 3. Oh, I'm sorry. Pi times radius squared times height divided by 3. Okay, so that's still taking 1/3 of this. So in these next examples, we're going to write our answer in terms of pi. That means pi stays as the pi in the answer. And then we're going to go ahead and convert that pi to 3.14 so we get a rounded approximate answer, okay? So let's start with our formula. Pi radius squared height. And then you divide that by 3. So that means we would take our radius, which is 2. So we want pi times 2 squared times the height, which is 4. And then divide that by 3. Okay? So we got 2 squared, which is 4. So this would be pi times 4 times 4. So we got 2 squared, which is 4 times 4. So that's 16 pi, or 16/3 pi. And 3 doesn't go into 16, right? So we would leave this as that. 16/3, sorry for that ugly 16. I just like to put it in front of the pi, not behind the pi. So 16/3 pi cubic yards. Okay, so calculator time. What do we want to do to get an approximate answer? Let's start with 16 times 3.14. And then don't forget the last part. Divide that by 3. So if we were finding the volume of a cylinder, we wouldn't divide by 3, but this time we have to take 1/3 of that. And so that gives us an approximate answer of 16 point, yeah, we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, so 16.75. And someone asked me last time, which of these is the answer? They both are. These are both answers. I just want to make sure you understand that. This answer here with pi, that's the exact answer. But if you're trying to build something, use it in the real world, not very useful. The second answer is the approximate answer. Even though it says approximate, it's the one that's useful in the real world. Okay, so let's try number 2. So we want to find the volume, and we need a radius, but we have a diameter, so we got to cut that 7.5. So that's 3.5. Radius is 3.5 meters. And this is our height, so we're good with that. Okay? So let's use 3.5 for the radius, and let's plug it in. So we want the volume, plug in, leave pi as pi, so it stays pi, but we want 3.5 squared. We're going to multiply it times 4, and then we want a third of that. Okay? So let's see, 3.5 squared is, how much is 3.5 squared? Yeah. So 12.25, multiply it times 4. What do we get there? If I take 3.5 squared, 12.25, multiply that times 4, what do we get? Well, 12.25, that's 3.5 squared times 4, I get 49. So let me write the answer as 49 pi thirds. So leave it as 49 pi over 3. This is the exact answer, so this is cubic meters. So now to get the approximate answer, take 49, multiply it by 3.14, and then divide that by 3. So 49 times 3.14, then divide that by 3, and that becomes 51.2029. Okay. Any questions on that? I meant leave it for later. Okay. So let's go ahead and just move on to a couple of examples where we're finding maybe a radius and a height on the back, so we can get working a little quicker. All right. So we're going to find the missing volume, or the missing dimension given the volume. So we're going to use pi as approximately 3.14. Okay. And then just plug everything into the formula. So this is the formula. They're giving us a volume, okay? They're giving us a volume. So what are we looking for in the first one? The height. This dimension here is unknown. So let's just leave it as h. So we're going to replace everything except the height into the formula. So instead of volume, we'll put 1,256 equals, instead of pi, we'll use 3.14, and we'll multiply that by 10 squared, and by the height, and then divide that by 3. Okay. So let's see, how much is 10 squared? 100. Yeah, and if you multiply the 100 times 3.14, it's 314. So now we have 1,256 equals 314 h over 3. Okay. And so we have to solve this very simple equation. 100, oh, let me see. Make this 56. 1,256 equals 3.14h divided by 3. All right, what can I do now? I could take out the 3. I could do this in two parts. So 1,256 times 3, 3,768. And then just divide away 314. And the height turns out to be 12 feet. Okay. All right. Not too bad. Let's do the next one. So for the next one, we're finding the radius. So we'll leave it as r. So let's replace the values in the formula with what we know. So we know the volume is 13,847.4 equals 314 for pi times r squared, which we don't know, times the height, which is 30. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is simplify 3.14 times 30. That's 94.2. Oh, divided by 3. That's important. Divided by 3. So 1,384, 1,300, 13,847.4 equals 94.2 radius squared thirds. Yeah. So now let's multiply by 3. I will cancel this. And that should be a pretty big number. $41,542.2 equals 94.2 radius squared. So it's a quadratic equation. Let's divide 94.2. So divide this value by 94.2. 441. But we don't want radius squared, so we'll square root this to get 21. And this would be 21 yards. Okay. All right. So the assignment is on IXL again. And the SMART score we want is 80.